move or something like that, because we've had sometimes where we had a motor overheat for like the film gripper cross sectional or whatever, and they kept on getting a runtime function because it wouldn't move, and they didn't know what it was. They thought it was a parameter, but if you came and moved it in manual, it didn't move, so they knew the motor was overheating. So that's that part. I can go back to the main infrastructure of this thing. This is the hoist. This is basically the whole thing that holds the whole frame. I can go up. Down, up, whatever I want to do. You see this number right here? This is the count. This is the actual how high the hoist is, and that value is from the bottom to the ground all the way to the top of the crimping bow. The crimping bow is this silver device right there. I don't know.
Like the alien from Superman.
Right. So it's just that's the crimping bow. That's where the film is winded onto the. Right. That's what we call a crimping bow.
Where is it?
The little silver thing that sticks up.
Let's go in.
Okay.
Bring it down and see. Look like the thing. You ever seen Superman?
Yeah.
That's it right there.
Okay.
Look like I want to drop his face. I'll put my hand on it for you.
All right. So we can go over some of this stuff
right
in here. So,
Okay.
as a reference, this right here, my arm width apart. This is called the stretch carriage. Right. This way, it's called the stretch sled. Right.
Stretch what?
Stretch sled.
Sled?
Sled. This is sled. This is carriage.
Okay.
And those values are important for your parameters and stuff like that when you come to stretch it. If you make those values higher, it'll widen everything out. If you make them smaller, they'll close everything together. Now, if you do make those things too close or something like that when you're stretching, they have these photo eyes up underneath the stretch, the crimping bows. These little photo eyes right there, they look down at the pallet. If you get too close to the pallet, the stretch has to see it, and then it'll back out so it won't crash. Right? So that's the function of these photo eyes up underneath. You can turn that function on and off. If you turn it off, that means that it'll go, and if it sees that it's about to touch something, it'll just sit there and throw a fault. You have to come up there and reset it. If you turn the function on to back out, it's set down, it'll see the thing, it'll back out, it'll widen up until it's free, and then it'll come down. That's how these photo eyes right here work. So once again, stretch carriage, stretch sled. Right? This right here is your crimping motors. These little wheels on the back of it, that's what pulls your plastic down. I would say maintenance-wise, the most important thing is that if this thing is engaged, it's a wheel back here, right? You have this wheel on the back, and you have this wheel on the front. They have to be flush. They can't be out of alignment. They have to be flush.
Show it again.
So you got this wheel and that wheel. I can reset the machine and press them so y'all can see exactly what I mean. Okay. So let me let's walk out and then we can reset the machine. Press it.
The little action you see when it's pulling the film down?
Yeah. Okay.
So, hey Nelson, can you press the reset on that light curtain? Okay, now look. And this is what I was talking about before. Stretch carriages is this way. So look, see how they come together? That's the stretch carriage. That's the stretch carriage. And then limit switch so I can't crash it, so it's gonna stop when it needs to. This is the stretch sled. It's a limit switch again, like I said, so you can't crash it. I can hold this button all day long, and eventually it's gonna stop, and it's not gonna go nowhere. No matter how much I touch it, it's not gonna go nowhere. Stretch carriage, stretch sled. Now let's go to the page where it says the crimping motors. Back. Crimping motors, there we go. Now I can press the crimping motors. And then I can actually, if you got film on there and you want to get it off, you can actually unwind the film and get it off the crimping bow so you can come in there and take it out. Sometimes if you hit emergency stop or reset or something like that or home position, it automatically tries to get the film off. But sometimes it don't do it long enough because you had so much film on there or it was too tight. So what I do is I bring the hoist down, I bring the crimping motors and the crimping bows in, the carriages and the sleds in to relieve some tension off the film, and then I press these and unwind the film to get the film off, and I can go in there and grab it. I'll show y'all that. So let's go in and I'll show you what I mean with this.
No, you should, man.
This has to be flush. This is what I mean. If this is not flush, what's gonna happen is, and they all have to be flush. What's gonna happen is if you got flush over here, flush over there, flush over here, then this corner right here is not flush. This one's not gonna pull as good as the other ones. So then you're gonna have crooked film on the pallet.
Flush means it has to be touching, right?
Right, it has to be, right, it has to be touching. It can't be touching like this at like a point. It can't be like a pinch point type of touching. It has to be a flat touching.
Okay.
Like, so that's the way that has to be done.
Yep.
You can see I can move this in by hand. I should have did that in the first place. I forgot. If you hit an emergency stop, the air is inactive, so I can actually pull and push this thing because no air is active because we in here. So that's the way this thing is, or whatever. If this thing is off, you have the possibility to loosen these bolts up right here, right? These bolts up here, and then this thing has some wiggle room in there. Not a lot, but it has a little wiggle room. These right here, these crimping wheels right here, these things wear out over the course of, like I say, a year and a half or something like that. If one of them is thinner, if one of them is just jacked all up or stuff like that, you can start tearing film or whatever. Change it out, and if you change one of them out, you might as well change all of them out.
Same as your car.
Right. If you got, ain't no point of changing one wheel out. Just change them all out because you got one of them that's a quarter of an inch thick, one of them that's this much thick, one of them that, you know what I'm saying. So just change them all out. If it gets ripped up, if all of them are good, but one of them just happens to get ripped up, just change that one out. But if all of them are different wear, they got all different wears on them, just change them all out. This is also for you, Nelson. These things right here should be tight to the frame. I've been to some of these places where, if y'all notice that when this thing is hooding, it sounds so smooth and it sounds so good. And after a while, these wheels here will start to loosen up, and then these things will start to move. These wheels have an oval-shaped hole that they go in. And you can actually, yeah, they have an oval-shaped hole that can go. So you actually take the wrench on the back of them and turn them and put more tension onto the frame, and then you want to be able to, come in there. That's just part of your maintenance. I would say that's something that you can check like every 3 months or so. Go in there and check, and then make sure that you got this. And you can hear the machine. When you start to hear the machine make noise and it's not smooth, it's mostly these wheels right here. When they start to wear, gotta replace them. And it takes a while for these things to wear. It takes a while. I seen them. These things 5 years later, they still look good, and I seen some of them 10 years, nobody ever changes them, and you go in there, and if they get worn down so much, you can turn them, but they never make contact with the frame, so you're never gonna be able to get the wiggle out. So you need to replace all the wheels, and that just makes your machine just run so much smoother. The same thing with these wheels, same thing with the wheels on the hoist. They all the same. All the wheels have a function where you can turn them, and they pivot around in a circular motion like this. And if I need to push more on the frame, I just turn the wheel to push more against the frame, and then I can get tightness in there. Chains is the same way. You don't want a lot of slack in your chains, of course, because you can jump the sprocket. That's good. You'll see the chains start to drag, and some of them will be almost touching. This comes with a maintenance manual and everything like that. So in the maintenance manual, it'll actually show every mechanical component. So if you guys need to order a port from George, you go to that port of the component, and it'll have a number. It'll have a number for this chain, and you can order that chain, right? But you also, I would say, more so with the chain, if it's stretched or something like that, sometimes you can get away with just taking out a link. if it's if it's possible. If it's so worn out that you have to take out like 6 or something like that, the chain is probably stretched beyond use. That's it for in here. Also, another important maintenance thing is you got this flex track. That flex track is very important, especially for the purple cable that's going through there. That's the Profinet, whatever. The Profinet is the one that connects all the motors, so they can be really precise, and they give the IO to tell it where to go and everything like that, and the counting and everything. But that cable right there and the yellow cable inside there, Bus, those cables are not really that robust. So when you break that track, or you missing a link out of that track, you start to put pressure on that cable, you're gonna have problems. So I always say, if that track becomes broken, you damage it or something like that, replace it. You can get away with running with it like that, but not for long. I mean, I've seen places that always got it off, and then they call in every 6-7 months about Profibus issues, and that's because the cable is in there moving. And it's rubbing a little wear point in it, and then it stops communicating, or it got a problem, and you got to go through and find which section is bad and replace it and run it all the way back through everything, and that's take time. So if you got, replace the cable track. That's the bottom line. Okay, now let's go back out here.
The light again.
So, shut the gate. Yeah. Now you see it where it said touchdown switch move clear to that should be open. Clear too often. I don't know what they call it. This is bad German, but basically, yeah, they got it Jinglish or whatever. Basically, the touchdown switches are those photo eyes that look down at the pallet. We were all in there flagging them and stuff like that, so that's what made that. That's what caused that fault. And since they now clear, you can clear it and it goes away. Now, if I sit up there with my hand under there, I'm not gonna be able to clear it. It's not gonna clear until the item is removed. So that means that if you got some plastic that fell down and was hanging over the crimping bow or whatever, it's not gonna allow you to move the hoist, because it's thinking that it's an obstruction in the hoist, and that if you go down, you can damage. So it's saying you got to clear that. So if you got plastic in there, clear it out. Just as a reference, that if you got a pallet come in there and it don't hood good, and you put it in home position, it's gonna take the film off the crimping bows and then throw it wherever. It could be on top of the pallet, it could be behind the pallet. Go in there and get the film. I got pictures from company KTN where they left the film in there and it was just sitting there, and the machine thought it was a pallet. The next pallet came in, it thought the film was centered on there, and the next pallet was halfway in there. Hoist came down, crash, broke up a whole bunch of stuff. So clear the film out. When the film comes down, if it falls on top of the pallet, falls on the floor or whatever, take it out, because even if the pallet, if it's on top of the pallet, if the pallet moves and that film goes down, then you can flag a photo wide too early and mess up the transport, and the next pallet could be messed up, right? So we did the crimping motors, right? Film transport, that's the conveyors here. And once you press that, it's not gonna stop, and then the film. Film drop, that's that motor down here, that's why you don't hear it moving. But the film transport is both motors together. Film drive is this motor down here. The one that we put the film in and closed it, that's the film drive. So that drives the film out of the thing. And then the film transport is the motor up there and the motor down there together, working together to transport the film. Okay, so like I said, I went in there and I moved everything, all these positions in manual mode, and now my machine is out of sequence. I have to put it in home position. Gonna go up, hit the proximity switch. Everything is gonna go to home position, rehome itself. It's once again, don't know if it got film in the belt, so it's gonna run the belts until it's complete one cycle. Spit any excess film that we got in there, but we don't, because we already shot that out. And then once everything is in home position, the screen is gonna go back to because this is an automatic function. This home position is an automatic function. That's why it's green. Once it's done with that, it's gonna go back to blue, manual mode. Now, if I press this, y'all already know this from the palletizer. Reset is basically if you have a fault, press reset, it clears it. If I press reset and the fault don't clear, that means that the fault is still active. If I press reset and the fault clears, that means that I cleared the fault and it's able to be cleared, so it goes away. Home position, we already went over that. Start. When you press this start button, it starts both the transport and the stretch unit. If I press the stop button, it stops both the transport and the stretch unit. And when I press start, everything goes in automatic. If I press stop, everything goes into manual mode, right? Messages, fault messages. This is the fault messages, current messages active. And then you also have history. And this is the messages for the 7 days. And then it backs out the last day and then puts a new day in. If you wanna log your fault history, you can actually here in the cabinet. It's a USB port underneath. I can put the USB stick in here, and then I can press the button over there to log the fault, and then it's gonna save it onto a USB drive, and then you got all your fault logs. This is more so as a monitoring system to see if I would say it helps me when I come back for PMs. Basically, if you got a fault that keeps on occurring, you can say, I got this fault that happens a lot. Like, how can we fix that to get that to where we don't get it as much? And that helps me because I can actually see if y'all really got a fault or if it's something that's like emergency stop, because emergency stop is not really a fault, right? That's you're gonna see that a lot. But if you got a counting fault or something like that comes up a lot, then I can see that and I can fix that. Most of the time, if you don't got that log, you don't remember exactly what the fault is. You just saying like, oh, it does this fault, and you got to watch it to see what it's doing. And then I can sit here for 2 days and never see it. So if you got a log, I can actually say, okay, yeah, I see it happen 4 times a day for a whole week, and right. All right, so let's get out of here.